Hello, my name is Mitch Miller, Senior Consultant here at Rego Consulting, and today we're going to talk about tracing data relationships in TBM Studio. Going over what we're going to cover today, we'll start with requirements that you'll need to use this feature in Apptio. We'll go over some typical use cases that we see our clients use. We'll go over the limitations of this feature, and we'll end with a walkthrough in TBM Studio. This feature is actually native to Apptio R11 and was brought over in the first release of R12. So any of you that are using R12 should be able to use this feature with no problems. Some of the common use cases we see a lot of our clients use this for. The first one being a bottom-up approach. So looking at the drivers or at a cost source and seeing how those dollars flow up the model. The next we see our clients use a lot is going to apps, services, or business units and seeing how they're getting cost. So clicking on a business unit and seeing what's driving cost to that business unit. We also can trace drivers and costs. So to see where the source of those costs are coming from. So anywhere in the model, we're able to go and kind of click on a line item and see either how it's getting costs or where those costs are being allocated to. And then dive into different areas of the model once the trace has been completed and see, maybe what servers are feeding into apps or what services are feeding into business units. So a very powerful tool to get some insights. Some of the limitations of this feature, you can only trace one line item at a time. And so if you have a multiple line items that you're trying to trace, you will need to do that one at a time. You can only trace one direction. So if you're not at the bottom or top of the model, you're able to trace up or down, but only one direction at a time. Because you're tracing off of a unique line, if you don't have a unique enough line, you will lose granularity in your insights. And so it's very important that you have the granularity you're looking for before tracing the model. And you can only trace modeled objects. So it is using your configuration and your modeled steps to use these to show the data relationships. And so if it's not a model metric, you will not be able to use the trace functionality. So here we are in TBM Studio. We typically want to go up to the gear wheel and make sure that we're on the right version of Apptio to use the feature. But as we know, this is native in R12. And so any version of R12 should be able to use this feature. So jumping right in, if we go to the metrics tab here, we can go to the most common one here, cost. We can see it's a model metric. Just a reminder, again, all of these calculated metrics will not be able to have a trace be done, but these modeled metrics we are. So by clicking on cost, it's going to open up here that cost metric. It's always going to default to model overview, but by clicking here, going to diagram, you're going to get that legacy view. The first thing I like to do is right here on this layout, click on where it says manual, click on it and click on hierarchical. It's just going to order these from bottom up based on allocations and kind of give you a cleaner view to start here. Let's go ahead and minimize some of this so that we can better see this model. So just starting from a top-down view, if we click on business unit allocations, it's going to bring up that table. It is only going to bring in that unique identifier. You are able to add data here by right-clicking and show and hide columns. So if you need to kind of understand a little bit more of where that's coming from, that's fine. But just know that that unique identifier is what the trace is going to be based off of. If we click here, let's say on business unit 7, we can trace down the model. And what that's going to do is that's going to take that, and we can see here it's only keeping business unit number 7. We can see it has $1,270,000. And what we can see is like going through the model, it's only having that amount of money. And so it's filtering out everything else, and you can see exactly where those dollars are coming from. We can see here that it's getting $31,000 from tickets, $33,000 from network devices. Just a very good, powerful tool. And so you can see down here that we have 100% allocation, right? So from top to bottom, we can see where all the dollars are flowing. What's cool is if you click on any of these, you're actually able to, if we click on vendors, we're actually able to see the vendors and the actual dollar amount per vendor that's flowing up to that business unit. And so we can see here that $407,000 is flowing up to that business unit, and here that $407,000 is broken out here. And so, some nice things here is if we just sort by descending, we can see here that Oracle is its top vendor that's flowing to that business unit. And so just a really cool tool to help dive into cost. Picking something in the middle of the model. So if we click on applications, for example, again, we can see this. We actually still have the trace on. So if we come up here and actually click on clear, we can actually open up and it'll clear that out. And we can see we have about $2 million in applications. just again, let's look at the most expensive app we have. So we can see app here 5278 has about $500,000. So by clicking on this, we can trace down the model and see what's driving cost to it. We can click on servers and see that what servers are feeding into that cost, and so forth. And so just a very powerful tool. Another thing though, if you're in the middle of the model, you can also trace up the model. And so by doing this, again, you can only trace one direction at a time. But by clicking on this, we can click, again, let's just sort this again, and let's use this and filter up. So we can see, if we click on business services, we can see what services it feeds. We know it's going through the direct allocation. And then by clicking on business units, we can see that all of this app is being consumed by one business unit, and it is that business unit number 7. And so again, just multiple ways to use the tool. It's a very powerful tool to look at, where costs are coming from or where costs are going. And so if users have questions, this is a place that you can go to help show them. If you have any questions, please reach out. But thank you for your time.